Yom Kippur is this Friday night and Saturday, and what it is we are looking to atone for our sins. Long confessions said many times. Okay, I would like to do a section from the Gemara Succa. It's appropriate because Sukkot is coming up, which talks about the Yetzer Hara. Now, in the case of the liturgy, it often gives the details of all sorts of sins. The part that I'm going to focus on is the 7 names of the Yetzer Hara. Now, there's a build-up to it. The idea of names, that's what it's called in the Gemara, but Shemot. But the word names in Hebrew, it's like similar to the names in English, is that it can be used as labels or descriptions. Okay, so let's start. It says, it's part of it in Agadata, a homily in the Gemara, and it talks about that when the days of the Messiah come, people will mourn for the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. So the Gemara says, well, that requires some discussion. Why would they mourn for the Yetzer Hara? And they say it's going to appear to the righteous like a big mountain, and they're going to cry and say, oh God, that was what I was up against. And says to the Rishayim, it's going to be like a little thread, kachut hase'ara, like a hair. And they're going to cry because they're going to say, gosh, this was the extent of the Yetzer Hara that I gave into all the time. It was nothing, and they'll be very upset. Okay, it continues with the discussion of that, and it says that the Yetzer Hara in the beginning is like a little thread. Okay, but in the end, it is like the ropes in a carriage, meaning very thick ropes that, are used to draw the carriage. And the idea is that what happens with the Yetzer Hara is that it's almost imperceptible. You have a little temptation here. You know you're doing bad and you shouldn't do it, but you do it anyway. But little by little you get accustomed to it, and then you become accustomed to doing more bad things. It's the salami approach. And eventually the person is doing very bad things, and there are things that they would have never imagined that they would do in the beginning, but now they're doing them. And the worst thing is that they become very difficult to escape from, because once a person has twisted their head and become accustomed to these bad situations, they're trapped. So this is the idea, is that you want to defeat your problems while they're still small problems. You want to overcome bad aspects of your character while they're still small, rather than when they become very large, in that you become accustomed to them, they dominate your life. It's a person's has bought a house in a horrible neighborhood. Now they're stuck there. Or they have a job and it's a crooked job. It's their income. What are you going to do? Okay? This is the idea. You might have majored in something different in college, or you might have told the steal it, or no, I'd rather buy a house in a nice neighborhood. It's a lot easier to resist the temptation in its early stages. So this is getting to the heart of the discussion. Says that Rabbi Avira, and if you want to say Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi, they made a homily that that there are 7 names to the Yetzer Hara, or this Yetzer Hara has 7 names. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi was considered a big tzaddik in the Gemara. These are often mentioned with Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who is considered the most important tzaddik in the Gemara. So it starts out, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu said Ra. God called him bad or evil, as it says Ki Yetzer Lev Adam Ra Min Ha'ara. Says that because the inclination of a man's heart is bad from his Nu'urav, often translated as youth. A Na'ar is a boy. We're talking about someone who's like 9 years old. It's the age at which kids become mischievous. They like to tease. They'll steal something. Look at dirty magazines. It's that type of thing. And it says that this is just part of a human being. It's also focusing in on the heart, and the other names will also focus in on the heart, in that it's saying that the heart is really the most important thing. You have a Mishnah in Pirkei Avot in the name of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, where he's asked, what is the best thing a person can have and the worst characteristics a person can have? He says the best is that he should have a good heart, and the worst is that he should have a bad heart. And the rabbi says that this is really corresponds to everything. You could be a good friend or a good neighbor or make your mother happy. If you have a good heart, you basically got it all. Okay? The next one is Moshe called him Ariel. Okay? Ariel literally means the foreskin that is circumcised. Okay? And it gives the quote, Umaltem es arlat Lavavkem, and you will circumcise the foreskin of your heart. Okay, the idea of the foreskin is that it makes the sexual organs, which is supposed to be the most sensitive of the body, to be something that is kind of unfeeling. The idea of someone whose heart is thick. Okay, the more general idea is someone who is vulgar or rude or ignorant. When you're talking about what raw, bad, what it means is there's something in us, our soul, that says, well, this is good and this is bad. And that's the essential idea of the evil inclination. When you're talking about somebody who is an oral, a savage, it's refining the idea and giving an example. In both cases, they are things that oral seems to be always bad. So you can be bad to your enemies, but you can't be generally bad. That's the way it's going to come out with the rest of them. Okay. The next one is David HaMelech. He says, and he called it Tameh. Now, Tameh is one of those Hebrew words that are difficult to translate. It's often called impure, unclean, dirty may be the best description of it. Defiled is another. Okay, as it says, Lev tahor, a pure heart, barali Elokim, create for me. God should create for me. The idea of tameh, sleazy, it very often has sexual connotations, promiscuity, a prostitute, okay, sleazy, okay, sleazy in all sorts of ways. As opposed to tahor is often translated with sexual purity, a virgin, purity within marriage, specifically in the case of marriage, not having relations with your wife when she's anita during her period. But the idea is, but it extends beyond that to purity of your mind, purity of heart, purity of your actions. The idea is that it's like pure metals, pure gold. It's not mixed with anything. That you're getting pure good. The idea tends to be that things that have one aspect to them have a greater tendency to be good rather than something that is mixed. And the idea is that generally when you're talking about things that are mixed, it means it's mixed with things that are impurities, that are bad. In the case of gold, it's talking about being mixed with dross, the stuff that you're going to burn out when you put it into a fire. Okay. So Shlomo called it soneh. Now this is getting a bit further from pure evil, hate. Now the idea of hate is, you can hate your enemies, you can hate Rishayim, but you shouldn't be generally a hateful person. You should be a loving person. The situation with hate is that it's very limited, and if someone is always hateful and they hate everything, that's an aspect of a person being a Rasha. A Rasha hates. A tzaddik loves. Okay, so what is it brings the quote, says it's the opposite. Im ra'av sonecha, if you're the person who hates you is hungry, ha'achiluhu lechem, feed him bread, give him bread to eat. Ve'im samei, if he's thirsty, hashkehu, give mayim, give him water to drink. Ki gachalim atah choteh al roshav. Okay, because you're going to be raking hot coals on his head. Okay, the idea is here, this guy hates you and he gives you a bad face and all that type of thing, and it's unjustified. And now you're going to do nice things to him, and what you're going to do is make him feel like a skunk. Make him you're hanging a guilt trip on him. But it continues, V'Hashem yishalem lecha, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu will repay you. In other words, you'll see good things come out of this. You'll get the recompense of a mitzvah. Now, this is a quote from Mishlei, but the Gemara has a little homily on it, and it plays with it, and it says, Al tikrei yishalem lach. Don't say that he will pay you. Eila yishalimenhu lach. Now, yishalimenu means make peace with him. In other words, what it's saying is that the reward will be that this person will be your friend because of this. The word yishalem, pay, is grammatically related to the word shalom in Hebrew. So the Gemara plays with this little pun, and it says that there's a hint in this. Okay, continuing, Yeshayahu, that's Isaiah, called it Michshol, a stumbling block. Okay, in other words, the stumbling block, a hazard, but it's the rock that you're always tripping over, or the slippery step, or the thing that you stub your toe on. But it's more than that. It's the guy who's always trouble. Okay, you think he's your friend, but when you get too close to him, he just causes you nothing but problems. That brings the quote, Solu, Panu Derech, go up, clear a path, Harimu Michshol, Biderech Ami, that you should remove these stumbling blocks from the path of my people. It's the idea of, it's a messianic prediction of the Jews returning from exile, and that when they go to Israel, there won't be any stumbling blocks in the way or any things to trip them up. Ezekiel called it Evan. This is getting back to the whole idea of the heart. Evan means stone, and the stone is hard. That's the idea here. Shenetmar v'hasiruthi eslev ha'evan. I will remove your stone heart, mi bisarchem, from your flesh or from your body. V'nasati lechem leiv basur, and I will give you a heart of flesh. In other words, a person is supposed to be a little bit on the soft-hearted side, the little bit on the sensitive time. You should not be callous to others in general. You want to be a feeling individual. So in other words, the idea of someone who's very hard is an aspect of evil. Something sometimes I have to work on, which may be the point. Yoel Karao Sophoni, Joel, he's one of the 12 minor prophets. It's all in one book called the 12 minor prophets. They're on the short side. It's not as long as something like Isaiah or Joshua. Shenetmar et hatzafoni archik me'alechem. And in other words, Sophoni in this concept, most translate it as the northerner. I will distance from you. Now, it's within the context of Joel, it's really not clear what it's talking about. Most translations say north, meaning Assyria, or in some case Magog, the war of Gog and Magog, both of which are in the north of Israel, or by the northern part of Israel, and they are both enemies of Israel. In other words, what God is saying is, I'm going to keep your enemies away from you. But Saphon, and again, this is a lot of Hebrew is like that. It lends itself to puns. Also means hidden. And what this is talking about is being sneaky, surreptitious, hiding in the shadows. And this is what is brought by Rashi. He says the rabbis make a dorish, a homily, or they explore it. The es hatzafoni arukik ma'hem, the tzafoni I will distance from him. Zeh yetzer hara. That is the evil inclination. Shetzafon, that's hidden. Va'omeid, and it stands belibo shel adam. That it stands in the heart of a person. In other words, you kind of know it's there, but it's hidden. The idea is that sneaky people tend to be rishaim. If a thief wants to steal from you, he's so often going to act like he's your friend, or if he's going to shoplift something, he likes it to be, in an out of the way or dark place where you can't see him that well. The idea of clandestine, it tends to be, certainly not 100%, but it tends to be an aspect of evil. You do have certain aspects of, like in Kabbalah, where it's like there's certain truths that are difficult to deal with, or this is too high for a person to do kind of conceal the direction that they're going in. It has, like the other ones, a good aspect, but the idea is that basically a person should be open and honest. The idea of integrity. You say what you really think and what you really feel, and it should be that you're a nice person. You're saying nice things. You're not always making all sorts of cheshbonos, schemes. Straight, honest, open, direct. And it continues concerning the evil inclination. V'hadiktav el eretz siyah u'shemama, and I will expel it or push it away to a land that's arid and desolate. L'makom she'ein adam mitzuyon lehitgarot behem. To a place that people are not likely or not found living there, on a permanent basis. Now, what all of this is talking about, which is the point of what I'm saying, is that good character is often the equivalent of all good, and bad character is often the equivalent of all bad, and you can break it down into 7 bad aspects, in that it's a negative way of looking at it. It's like saying these 7 things you should be careful of and distance yourself from. And if you do that, everything else is going to fall into place. You will automatically be a good person. It continues. Okay, and his face, meaning the evil inclination, will be towards the sea. Hayam HaKadmoni, the ancient sea. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu placed his eyes on the first temple and he destroyed it. Okay, this is because of the evil that was done. Okay. And he killed the Talmidei Chachamim that were in it, the Torah scholars that were in it. Okay, again, it's you could look at it as this from the standpoint of either the Torah scholars had become corrupt, or it could mean also that just like the temple was good, good people also died with its destruction. The Sofo el Hayam Ha'acharon, its end is to the other sea. Shedatan einav b'mikdash hasheni v'arakifo. And that the Yetzer Hara, this is what it's talking about. He put his eyes on the second temple and he destroyed it, and the Talmidei Chachamim as well. Okay, that's the essential idea, is that the Yetzer Hara, the forces of evil, as opposed to the forces of nature or the forces of politics, it was these 7 characteristics that destroyed both the temples. Okay, and he continues. This is all an exploration on the prophet Joel. Va'ala b'isho v'ta'an ta'al sachanaso. And it will rot, and his stink will rise. Okay, Shemanich omos olam mitgabre b'sonehem shal Yisrael. That the Yetzer Hara, okay, that it materialized among the nations of the world. In other words, because of the bad characteristics of the Jewish people, the sins of the Jewish people, acting the way, doing the bad things like I just discussed. Okay, the Yetzer Hara was more found among the nations. In other words, the nations became the manifestation of the Yetzer Hara. Umitgarei b'sonehem shel Yisrael. And it incited those that hated Israel. So, in other words, the evil inclination was the one who was stirring up the anti-Semites and stirring up the Goyim against Israel. The idea is that it's the sins of the Jewish people, the sins that we are atoning for this Yom Kippur and on all Yom Kippurim, that they became manifest among the nations and among those that hate the Jews. And that's what gave them their power and their motivation. Ki higdil aso, because it does big things. Then it says Abaya, v'talmidei chachamim yotir mikulam. And with he provokes them more against the Talmidei Chachamim. That, in other words, if somebody is really learning Torah and he's living according to it, he should expect to have greater challenges. He's the one who's going to have the mountain of troubles, because the Yetzer Hara wants to work hard on getting him. With the other people, he could just, tickle them a little bit with a straw, and they start dancing to his tune. The Talmidei Chachamim, to get at them, he has to give them a mountain of enemies. So, wishing you all a meaningful Yom Kippur and an easy fast. Thank you.